Okay, welcome to Rational Reality, our third episode, focusing again on housing. In normal circumstances, this week would have been quite a special week because normally we'd be at the Chartered Institute of Housing Conference in Manchester. And as well as that, England would hopefully have been progressing through the Euros. So there'd be any number of events and outgoings to the pubs taking place around that. And we'd be marking EU Sustainability Week. So earlier this week, we revisited a breakfast seminar from CIH in 2019, last year, where Glenn Slater, the group's chief visionary officer, shared his thoughts on what a home of the future might look like and how we might be building in 100 years' time. So welcome, Glenn. Thank you for joining me today to answer some of the questions we've got around housing.
Hi, Tom.
One of the standout messages from last year's presentation that you gave and the seminar itself was all around sustainability being at the heart of housing. To achieve that, I think there was a lot of discussion around we need cultural transformation all over, everywhere really, in the housing sector, but also within government, within industry, and organisations throughout the supply chain, but also individual personal levels. So I'm just interested to get an update from yourself initially around what you feel the current reality is and how we're working towards that with our customers.
Well, I think it's obvious to say that the COVID-19 situation has kind of stalled progress a little bit for everyone, without doubt, and it has taken that sustainability message a little bit off the agenda. But I think one thing you can still see away. I mean, I was trying to project a picture of where housing might be in 100 years' time and really look at what might happen to us over the next 30 years. But a lot of that did start around modern methods of construction and the use of timber frame construction. And I think that's still very much clear and present with the government's Future Homes Standard as well. That's still there. That's not changed. I think very much where we are is maybe a lot of the things we really started to pick up some impetus with last year has probably just been shuffled along a year. That's how I feel about it, and I'm noticing that agenda and looking at how we can create sustainable buildings is coming back onto the agenda now as we start to re-emerge from the past 3 months.
And you mentioned there that that kind of carbon reduction agenda has kind of been sidelined to an extent by some of the other things that have been going on at the moment. But what do you think we could do as an industry to help kind of force it back onto the radar maybe that bit sooner?
Yeah, I think there's already, I mean, before this happened, there was things starting to happen the back end of last year, particularly. We're part of the major contractors group within the National Federation of Builders, and they produced a paper late last year, transforming the construction industry for a low carbon future. So I think things like that, those sort of collective industry level things to get that message across to government and to clients about what needs to change and what we need to change as an industry are really important. And I've noticed even recently, this year as well, the House Building Federation are also focusing very much on modern methods of construction. I think if there's one thing we need to do as an industry, though, there are many associations and bodies, and a big thing would be is how can we make sure that we come forward with one voice as an industry around how we can tackle that and look at uniform alliances, combined ways, collaborative ways of addressing this, because I don't think it's not only as a single business that we address this. So we need to start by measuring our own carbon footprint, and we need common ways and common practices of doing that, and we need to then go to government and local authorities and other bodies as one voice. I think that's the biggest thing we can do collaboratively. And the NFB are looking to publish a second version of that report later this year. So the more of that kind of thing we can do and show that we're coming together as an industry across supply chains, clients, industry bodies and contractors, I think that's what we need to do.
You mentioned that Obviously, the ideal would be that everyone comes together, but there are a number of those organisations, and obviously the supply chain, when you cascade it down, the actual industry itself is huge. Do you have any thoughts about how we might be able to bring something together and to get one voice, that we can get that?
I think it is about those industry bodies, I suppose, being willing to come together. I mean, you're part as well of the Constructing Excellence. It's those kind of overarching that have multiple contacts and making sure that they can come together. I think that's what I'd be sort of looking to table, that we look at how we can communicate with those other bodies and make sure that we're not kind of working against each other, because you can get too many initiatives across the industry, whereas what we need really is one initiative.
Yeah, no, I agree. You also mentioned a few times modern methods of construction, or MMC. Yeah. What have you seen within our client base? What have you seen the trends around MMC?
Within our client base, I mean, a lot of our clients are local authorities. So you've got the climate emergency. The majority of them have now signed up for that. That many of them are starting to work on their carbon reduction plans and have set various targets. And then obviously this crisis hit them, but those things are very much still there, and there's a huge amount of appetite. But the bit for looking at different ways of delivering housing and more sustainable ways to help them work towards that low carbon, sustainable, resilient future. Naturally, I think there's been many pilots run for modern methods of construction over the years. It is something that's tended to false start. So I think the big issue for the industry is we've got to find some way of delivering it that meets their price point and can be, can go beyond just one-off pilot projects. So it can do something continuously over a number of years and really hone in and improve the product. Yeah. But there's a huge appetite for it, I think, and they really, as what I read is a lot of local authorities are recognising how housing can become is a big part of their economic recovery plan. I think only this week we've heard similar things from the government as well. So they see this as an opportunity, but it's just finding that consistent, continuous way of delivering it, so that we don't fall into the same trap of having, one-off pilot schemes that then we haven't really reaped the full benefits of it.
Yeah. There's strength in the numbers of kind of driving up the production of it, isn't there? Yeah. And I suppose, kind of on that note, we're on site that I'm aware of with around 70 timber frame houses at the moment, with clients such as Great Wall Homes in Wellingborough, Nottingham Community Housing Association, and Chesterfield Borough Council. Going back to the sustainability piece that we talked about to start with, can you just explain some of the pros of timber frame technology and the off-site methodology?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of from a sustainability perspective, there's the obvious one that the product, I think, is fairly universally accepted, that timber is a sustainable material in terms of, and that can be renewed, and if properly sourced, it can be sourced from renewable forests. So in that sense, it's sustainable. But then it helps us also deliver buildings that are actually contribute to carbon reduction through embodied carbon, because by using timber, you're embodying the carbon that would normally be released into the atmosphere. You're embodying it in the building. So it's not released as rapidly, which helps with carbon reduction. And then there's also the fact that it's off-site. You're building in as much of it as you can build off-site. You're building it in an environment that's controlled. You're able to apply more lean processes, which reduces site waste, which is reducing waste to landfill. So they're the sort of three key areas. But then there's also opportunities if you can form alliances with local manufacturers. Then there's the local labour aspect of it as well. And I think that's an important connection to make between local spend and having more of a localised solution to meet local authority or housing association requirements, and reducing travel, which again is again tackling that carbon footprint issue. Yeah, as well as a lot of other benefits as well.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned then about tackling travel, and I know sustainability has been a passion of yours for quite some time now. So can you tell us a bit about what you've done to change maybe some of your habits and the kind of things that you've been looking at?
Yeah, I feel personally I'm by no means perfect, but I mean one of the things I suppose my goal for this year is to be really look at decarbonising my transport. So I mean 3 years ago I purchased my second car as an electric car, and I think actually through all the changes we've all been through in the last 3 months, not traveling to work so often, looking at how new technology, I'm very much going to be looking to work from home more than I previously did, reduce my travel. So we've actually made a decision now to go down to one car. So the electric car reached the end of its PCP, so we've purchased that. I'll be selling my what was my first car in the next month or so, and looking at we've done our bikes up, so we're going to just look at being pragmatic. And I think in a way I've applied the same ethos as when we collectively had to in 2 days move on to Teams and working from home. Yeah. Look how we adapted to that. So I'm taking the fear of selling that second car, and I'm going to just do it and take the leap in the belief that we've got plans and we can work around it if we choose to. So I'm looking to go this year 100% electric.
Okay, and the whole family will be on Strava competing with each other, will they, as well?
Yeah, and we're going to do some more cycling for those top-up shops and things like that. So that's one thing. There's a lot of other areas we're looking at around our plastic usage and all those kinds of things, which are obvious. But the biggest one this year is the transport. Sure. And then looking at not also sort of on an individual working basis, looking at how many of those meetings that we were travelling a long way to have, how many can we actually practically and realistically do just as well through things like Teams and Zoom.
Yeah. Just moving away from from the individual level and kind of bringing it back to the clients again a little bit.
Yeah.
What role do you see local authorities and the framework providers playing in kind of enabling that positive change that we're talking about?
Well, my big hope is that we can work together with the industry, and that whilst it's a very difficult time, and I know a lot of the public sector clients are in that kind of looking at economic recovery plans, but I really hope that they can see the benefit of not only just delivering housing, but delivering housing, rethinking how we deliver housing, looking at modern methods of construction, looking at sustainability, and making that part of the economic recovery plan. And you can see that, recently anybody who's been watching or looking at my LinkedIn feed, we quite widely publicised that we recently won a place back up for the second time on the Bowls Over Homes framework. Now, immediately that led to us bringing a couple of employees back off furlough. It's enabled us to have a programme of work that we have some control over, and it's enabling us to now look very seriously at that future home standard in 2025 and how we can actually deliver that ahead of time. And we've got other enlightened clients that kind of see this as part of their economic recovery plan, and that's not just delivery of housing. I think it's the renewables. It's looking at where we need to go for the future rather than doing what we've always done. So I think that's a clear case in point. The Bowls overtaking that attitude that they see their part to play in economic recovery and investing in these new technologies and looking at it as a means to help them deliver their carbon reduction plan. Yeah,
I mean you mentioned there obviously the economic recovery aspect, and I've got a note here regarding the Office for National Statistics on the 12th of June reporting that the value of construction output fell by just over 5.1 billion in April 2020 compared to March 2020. How do you think housing can help that wider economic recovery in particular?
Well, I think it's a vital driver because there's the demand. There's many reasons to be doing it, but the borrowing is as cheap as it's ever been. It's particularly local authority and housing associations are delivered by local supply chains and local businesses, and there's the demand hasn't gone away, and if anything, it's probably increased. From speaking to a few clients in recent weeks, waiting lists are larger. There's never been more of a need for affordable housing than there is right now, and those programs very much drive local economies. and delivers the social value, the environmental impact, and actually, if you can give contractors programs of work to work for, that also drives innovation, and enables us to do what we need to do, which is invest in research and development.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that, Glenn. Just before we wrap up, mentioned right in the opening that this week would have also seen England hopefully progressing through the Euros. So, quick question for you: favorite England goal and why?
My favourite England, I kind of got a bit preempted, but I gave it a bit of thought, and it's the David Platt goal against Belgium in the 1990 World Cup.
Why was that?
It was a really tense game. We felt we were one of the best teams, and it was just a last minute Gascoigne free kick, and it was just a brilliant goal in the last minute. And I suppose I just remember that from my teenage days a bit, and just being ecstatic about it. But it also links to recently we've been having teams catch-ups with those same 5 friends that I'm still in touch with from school, that I witnessed the whole 1990 World Cup, and it's probably why I didn't do quite as well as I might have done in my A-levels that year. That's what I'm blaming it on anyway, because it was a bit of a distraction because we did so well. But also none of us could remember this, but David Platt also scored a disallowed goal in the semi-final against West Germany, which was also a brilliant goal. And we've done the whole look at it several times, and it actually was onside, but it was given offside, and all of us had totally forgotten about that. So just typical England luck in tournaments for the whole of my life, I think, really. That definitely feels like the World Cup that got away in my lifetime, anyway.
Fair enough. Thank you, Glenn.
That's that.
So just to wrap up, obviously in 10 minutes we can only really scratch the surface of what a huge topic all of this sustainability agenda and all the modern methods of construction. So we'd like that discussion to kind of carry on online. So if you want to go online, either tweet us, hashtag WoodheadRR, and you can also, as I've mentioned in the past, you can follow us on LinkedIn, the Woodhead Group, Woodhead Construction, or myself and Glenn, we're both on LinkedIn as well. We might not be able to catch up in person as we might have liked to originally in Manchester, but our housing and regeneration team are still really interested in looking at one of the ongoing trends at the moment, which is kind of a digital drinks catch up. And I know that we recently had an employee quiz where it was bring a bottle and it was all social distanced and delivered through Zoom. So there's something there that we'd like to get in touch and kind of extend that offer out to everyone. So if you'd like to get involved in that, please do get in touch with me and let me know. And we'll see you for the next episode of Rational Reality in a couple of weeks. Thank you.